Okay, I've been having a little challenge with the camera I've got. It's very expensive, inexpensive, and the sound I had it so I could filter out the background noise, but it's not raining, and I don't hear any background noise. We'll go with that now. As I said before, I usually have something, some commentary on the Bible, some of the mistakes people made, and if not reading the Bible, or not reading the whole sentence, taking a lot of things out of context. But that's not what interests people nowadays. So I'm going to start to hit the bricks, to hit the video bricks the same way that other people are doing. I've got about 10 people that I watch because I've filtered out. If you want a survival, you want the best gear, you go to the Canadian Prepper. If you want real estate, I think the guy's name is Bardano. He lives in Miami. The guy knows his stuff and he puts it in plain English. There's a couple of other guys I watch. You've got Jeremiah Beatty. Beatty, he's done a pretty good job. He's kind of, he lives in, of course, I think he lives in Palm Springs or Palm Desert. I think I've got a good idea where he lives, and he talks about the stock market, but he can't get away from what's going on in the banking. I watch Didacted, and they've got a pretty good idea what's going on. You can watch what's going on in the Ukraine, but there's not going to be much you're going to do about it anyway. I sure as hell, after 31 years in the U.S. military, the Army and the Air Force Special Operations, Special Forces for 17 years, I wouldn't volunteer to go over there. I don't have a dog in that fight except for this senile guy that's riding the white horse or the red horse of war. And politics is a dirty business. I love a lot of these people that are going to run, but Trump is like somebody that's taken karate lessons or judo or kung fu. He's been in the match. He's been trained now. He's been bloodied. They've thrown so much stuff at him that I'm sorry to say, I don't like his language or he's a brisk. It's a New Yorker, The guy has been in there. He's taken all the hits, taken all the shots at these communist people in our government that have wormed their way into government. They've taken every shot they can at this guy. He's been through it. So anyway, let's don't talk about that. This one's going to be how to buy gold and silver. Years ago, I've always been a conspiracy buff, and I used to go to all these conventions. I meet these guys, I meet these people that are still out there thinking that the aliens dug in under the Antarctic, and they've recruited the Nazis to work for them. And, that's so much of that you don't have to worry about. Anyway, let's get back to gold and silver. How do you buy gold and silver? Well, in my life, back in the 70s, I was doing contracting for Blackwater and Arcom overseas. I was making very good money, $14,500 a month, would you believe? And the helicopter inspector. And I was sitting over there one time. I came back. I was working for RC. I came back from Afghanistan after getting my ankles shot out. I had to jump off a a shithole. It's about 30 feet in the air, so I landed on it and blew out both ankles, so they cut me back. But then I started working for hard. Died in Pullman Barracks in Germany. My daughter lives in Berlin, so that was great for me. But while I'm over there, I get a phone call and they say, "Oh, your mortgage has adjusted." Now I was playing the rat line. I'd eased into a house in San Bernardino, and I was working at the airport, aircraft inspector. And when I was over there, I bought a house. Well, I got in just at the right time because I bought a house, a 3-bedroom house on a pretty nice area. And I think I paid $106,000 for that thing. And after the mortgage, I think it was up to 116 or something like that. But one day I got a knock on the door. And they said, "Oh, your house just qualified. You've got to go down to the housing department. You qualified for a grant, 2 grants, as a matter of fact. A grant, $10,000 for home beautification, 3% interest that never has to be paid back unless you sell the house." So I took that, and then lo and behold, well, you got that one, but you also qualified for another $5,000 grant. If you took the first loan, I got a grant. So I had a pretty nice looking house after a while, and they put everything in there. Knew this, knew that, everything was all paid for, and then it went under this mortgage. So I had a first mortgage at 6% interest. Then later on, of course, the thing was, do you want to refinance? And I said, "What's that?" "Oh, we'll refinance you, and that'll lower your payments." I said, "Oh, okay." So I refinanced it the first time, but I refinanced it about the same thing it was worth. But that readjusted my loan. So anyway, to make a long story short, I refinanced that thing 6 times while I was overseas and while I was back, because the first tours were only for 90 days each. And so finally, like I say, I'd only paid $106,000 for this thing. I had refinanced it 5 or 6 times. I had refinanced it at something like 120% over market value. So I had probably pulled over $100,000 out of that thing. Of course, the last 2 I did were ARMs, adjustable rate mortgages. I wasn't married. I didn't care that much. And I took the money, and believe me, I went everywhere that you could go except for Antarctica. Plus, I was in the Army Reserve, and I got into a couple special positions where I could come and go. It was called a mobilization augmentee, which a lot of people didn't know what that was all about. But I would come and go back and forth to Fort Bragg. I'd fill in as a maneuver area control officer, and I was only master sergeant. But I was a GS-11 when I would work when I worked for Blackwater. I was a GS-12, which I was making as much as a lieutenant general. But let's get back to gold and silver. So when I was sitting there in Pullman Barracks, and I got a phone call, and they'd say, "Oh, your mortgage just readjusted." I said, "They did?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, what's the news?" They said, "Well, your first mortgage is now adjusted up to 15%, and your second was still down around 6%. And I said, "Well, I was making a lot of money. Even in Germany, I was making a lot of money." So, and I had somebody looking after the house. I said, well, how much is that payment going to be? And she says, $2,500 a month. Well, that was up from about $600 a month. So I didn't know what to say. A 9 hours difference, and all you'd hear was, you didn't hear anything about a mortgage modification in those days. So all you'd hear was you'd ask a question and you'd hear some high heels walk away from the phone, and pretty soon time ran out. So I said, okay, well, that's the way it's going to be. So I said, I got to hot-foot it back here to see what's going to go on with the house. So I quit my job. And that didn't make them too happy because, like I said, it's hard to find that helicopter inspector. That didn't make them too happy. So, but when I got back, I had 5 credit cards with a $10,000 line of credit on each. So I thought, well, I'll just hot-foot it back to the U.S. and I'll buy another house real quick because I've got excellent credit. Right? Well, no, I had a plan for that. I come back and I try to buy a pair of shoes on the way back, and they said, "Oh, your credit card's been rejected." What are you talking about? So, what the way they nailed me was that when I called in, they said, "Oh, Mister, we're not issuing as much credit as we used to." And I said, "Well, how much credit do I have?" And she says, "Well, you have $1,000 now." And the other 4 cards, they just said, "No, they disappeared." No, I can't do that. So I said, "Well, look, you got to kick it up to at least $30,000. I said, I can't buy it. I can't have a good time at the bar for $1,000 because I was living the high life. But don't forget, on the side, I was keeping my money. So I had cash in the bank, but I had no credit. So I told myself, I said, look, I've always been a conspiracy bum, and I knew about this gold silver thing. I'd had one story that there used to be a Jonathan Silver in Englewood of all places, when Englewood was still pretty white. And so one time when I was just a kid, I went down there. I said, give me 2 bags. I had $4,500 on the good. Give me 2 bags of bullion, silver, just junk silver. And I did. And he gave it. I put them under the bed. The damn things weigh like 20 pounds each. And when I came back, I took those 2 bags down to Jonathan's one day, and I turned them in. And he gave me a cashier's check for $19,000. What the hell is going on? So I said, I'm going to run down the cashiers, baby. Because there must have been a mistake, but there wasn't. That's when silver was going. They had a lot of guys on the radio buying and selling silver, and the Koch brothers were trying to get a line on it. So there again, I had a lot of money. And it turned out that poor Jonathan finally went broke. He didn't have the money to pay for the silver. But so I took that money, and then I did. I bought into, I've got a car, I got my car, I've got the things I needed. Let the house sort of, I paid it for a while. And then I bought gold and silver. Bought a lot of gold and silver. A lot of gold. Stack them babies up, Anyway, I kept those for a long time. And then I basically, I let the house go. It went into foreclosure. And I stopped paying on the credit cards. Well, you've got to make up your mind. Do you need a FICO score? When you've got cash, do you need a FICO score? And how much damage is this really going to do to you in the future? So anyway, I had the gold and silver. I had cash. So I probably played the high life. Went back into working for contractors, short contractors for Lear Sealy, classified fuel teams. I did a lot of traveling. But I had the gold and silver a long time ago. So, but now things have changed and you need the information. Now I'm going to talk to you low rise. If you got a $3,400,000, I can't, you better get expert advice. I don't know. You can buy it, but are you going to be able to keep it? I think Robert Kiyosaki, he says he was big on silver, but Robert changes around all the time, rich man, poor man, kind of a thing. He was heavily in the real estate. Then he's out of real estate. Then he's in a little bit in the coin, cyber Bitcoin. And then he out of that now. Now he's into silver, And if they try to, he's got to hid it away somewhere. Look, if you're the big guy, you don't need my advice. I'm talking to you regular, normal people. So you got about 10 grand. Now, have your food, have your defense items of defense. The only thing I'll say in that regard is, after all the time in the military, there's almost nothing I can't field strip, put back together again, and have it operational within maybe 20 seconds. You need training. The best civilian training today is gun sight in Arizona and front sight in Nevada. You're going to have to pay for it. You're going to have to find the proper weapons, and you're going to have to know how to use them. Plus, you're going to have the proper mindset that if you ever do use the damn thing, you're going to know what to do immediately afterwards. Do you bury the evidence, drag it over and put it in the garbage dumpster? Or do you leave the area immediately and you don't talk to anybody? That's enough said on that, but get back to gold and silver. You should have gold and silver, but recently I wouldn't advise you. So you got $10,000. I would advise you to, this is financial advice, by the way. You can sue me if you'd like to, or call the, TCA or something like that. You should have about, give yourself 4 or 5 gold ounce coins. Make them American coins. Now you can have a cooler in, but they've got a little bit of copper in them, so you're looking for gold. And you should have 4 or 5 Bitcoins, and you're going to pay a higher premium, but you should have half ounces and sometimes quarter ounces, because if this thing really does go sky high, you're going to have to be able to spend them or trade them to somebody. And if they're $20,000 each, what are you going to do? And besides that, if you try to turn them in, you're just going to get useless dollars anyway. Recently, I just bought a beautiful $9,000 all-wheel drive van, mint condition, for 1 gold coin. And the guy, I said, would you take a gold coin? And he says, well, I've heard something about that. And drive up here and take a look and tell me what's going on. So not only did he give me the van, he gave me a rifle, something like an AR-15, but it's a little better, and a pistol, and he gave me something else too. And he says, tell me more about this. And I said, well, I'll get to that. I got to go home now, but I'll tell you about it. So that's the way you do it. You do have your gold coins, but you always ask somebody, if you need something, would you like a gold coin? Don't tell them how much it's worth. It's up to you about whether you want to trade one. So that's as much gold as I think you could have. And like every Jewish person knows that are older, always be able to shove something up your butt and walk across the border. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's your gold, and the rest of it you should buy in silver rounds, 999 proof. and that's your silver coins. They're heavier, and you've got to drag them around with you. But it won't take much to make up 10 grand. The rest of it, if you've got more than that, say you've just sold a house or something like that, you've got $140,000. Then there's a couple of people there that go to the experts, or find a reputable coin dealer, go down there and ask around, just act normal, and tell him that, well, I've got quite a bit of money. What do you think? How do you think I should do it? If he's a reputable coin dealer, he might make a deal that you can keep those coins at his safe, and these guys are, believe me, they know the business. They're well protected. So that's as much as I can say about buying gold and silver. First of all, you probably want to have enough to lug around with you. But then again, here's another. You know, the infantry is called the queen of battle, and artillery is called the king. You've got to be able to move, but sometimes when you get to be my age, I'm up in the mountains. I'm secure, nice community. You get to know the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department are, if you're a former military, you're pretty well in there. And you try to live a decent life, but and then you sit down like I do and you watch TV all day, but there's not a damn thing you're able to do about it. So the only other provision that takes care of gold and silver. Yes, buy some gold and silver. The other part is if you're married. Now I'm talking to men primarily, but women also. There is a little bit of a problem that some of the family married people are going to think you're nuts. Don't argue with them. Don't argue with them. Just say maybe if the wife doesn't want to get along with you, then it's a little bit of a problem. So keep your mouth shut. Now for you ladies, maybe you're married to some drunk or some guy that you shouldn't be married, but the guy was a football champion in high school, something like that. Stuff happens. Be very careful about you handle with family money. California and some of the other states are community property states, and there's nothing like it. Most families are ruined by financial problems. Ladies, I'm going to have to refer you to the Lord. The Lord, there's more women mentioned in good terms in Scripture than there are men. 15 of the kings of Israel were They're lousy bastards. There's only 2 kings that really did the job. God wanted them to. So anyway, that's about as much on gold and silver. I've got some other videos, but let's do that on gold and silver. Yes, have gold and silver. Have an amount that you can either get to, or you can move, or bury it. I don't know what you're going to do with it, but keep watching and keep visiting your coin store. Just to be on cordial terms with him, and sometimes he's like an attorney. You can tell him what you think that might happen or what's going to happen. Oh, the other thing is, I guess I could talk for another half an hour on banks. What I've had to do is, like I say, I lost all my bank cards, except for one, by the way. And I kept that just in case, because the bank card does give you some slippage. If you've got something that you need right now, you use the bank card. But the trick is, and they don't like this, you pay it off every month, if you can, or at least you pay it down. But you only use it for emergency purchases, like I needed a transmission or something like that. then you can use it, but you're going to be paying it down. So always pay it down to $100. Try to keep it hovering around between $100 and $500 because you can always pay that off, but don't let it go. Now, I have a lousy FICO score, but I don't need a FICO score because I've got enough gold, silver, and cash around that I can take care of my needs. And so I'd say that's about as much as the banks. I would get out of the banks and move over to a credit union. And if you ever have, now the tax man and other agencies are going to come after you if you've got a high profile. If you're a schmo, they don't care about you. But if they ever try to garnish your bank account, they can garnish your bank account. As a matter of fact, within the last 5 to 10 years, they've had legislation that bank owns you. You're an unsecured creditor as far as they're concerned. So I have a credit union. Now, if you have a savings account, that's a different animal. That is your property, and no agency can garnish your savings account. So I imagine they'll get around to it someday. But unless you've actually had a hearing and a lien has been established, which they generally aren't, they will send you a notice of federal tax lien, but they'll never give you a hearing. So it's not a properly issued lien from a court of competent jurisdiction, as they say. But the banks don't care. They take orders from them. So if they do send a letter of a lien, then the banks will say, oh, fine, you get to have it all. But they can't take your savings account so far. So I have a credit union, and I have a bank too. So I have a credit union. All of my pension funds and my military retirement, what have you, go into the savings account. And then I sort of transfer what I need over to the savings checking account. And then from the checking account, I trade that over to my bank. And then from the bank, I usually pay my bills. But this can all disappear except for the credit unions. Probably you won't, because you're actually a member of it. You own shares in a credit union, and you don't own shares in a bank. That's just some information. Be prepared for it to change. But as right now, 2023, that's the law. But you can't depend on the law because it's being twisted. The French word tort, they call about tort law. And just row hard for Rome. Remember the movie Ben-Hur? The guy was saying, row hard for Rome, or you won't survive. So if you want some humor in your life, stay as cunning as a serpent, but as gentle as a dove, as gentle as you can be. So that's gold and silver for right now, and I'll be making other videos on basically how to stay in trouble. And we depend on the Lord. The Lord is there. He's your conciliatory. He's your high priest. He's your lawyer, your attorney. As I always say, if you just can't go to the Father, you've done something, you've screwed up. Take it to the Lord and lay it on the table and say, I can't go to the Father with this. And the Lord will say, all right, I'll do what I can, and come back tomorrow morning and we'll start this whole thing. all over again. Don't forget the lady that was caught in the very act of adultery. Christ went down and he wrote something in the sand, which I'll give you a secret. I'm pretty sure it was the name of the other guy, which was probably a priest or Sadducee that was caught in the act with her. They left, and Christ said, "He who is without sin cast the first stone." And these turkeys knew that I was out, so they left. And then he asked her, "Where are your accusers?" She says, "They aren't here." He says, "Then I don't accuse you either. Go home and sin no more." So each day you think you've done something, you've screwed up, go to the Lord, go to Christ and say, "Oh, I've done this." He says, "I got news for you." He says, I'll take care of this. I've got the authority to. But let's don't let it happen again, all right? Yes, sir. Thank you. Anyway, that's the religious part. I hope you've enjoyed it. Anyway, you're not going to get rid of me. My job now is with my little inexpensive camera, my bad lighting, and my false tooth. That's going to be my job. I'm going to remind people of the magnificent job that Christ did, and that is what He's doing for us as we speak. All right? Okay. Be blessed. See you next week.